Mississippi's trusted weather experts. This is Mississippi Live Weather at 5.
Well, welcome in here to Mississippi Live Weather 5. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lopon. Hopefully you're having a fantastic Tuesday, what has been a warmer day, and temperatures will slip going forward for the next couple days ahead, as we're not going to repeat quite this level of warmth even into the weekend, with some rain chances that could include some thunderstorms by then. I think rain chances return tonight. Thunderstorms, we're thinking probably more Saturday, maybe into Sunday of the time period to see some of those. We'll look at that here in a couple of minutes, but we're on the front end of the first of those chances. I think it's a busy weekend regardless. Central South Mississippi, more the target zone for some strong severe thunderstorms at this point. Confidence in that remains a bit limited. And then one of the big questions we have ahead, when will the cold return? It is still February. I mean, for folks that still don't have power, these overnights are still fairly chilly, not as bitterly cold as what we had recently, but certainly it is much milder than it has been. We're at 69 still as of 6 p.m. As you can see there, 63 by 9, 61 as we look toward midnight. Rain coverage, as you can see, pretty limited right now, only around 10 to 20% or so, and a lot of it's not making it to the ground. More of it will by 9 p.m. to midnight as we head into the overnight time period. And listen, most locations, we're talking a quarter inch of rainfall, maybe less than that. So it's not going to be an everybody thing as far as rainfall is concerned. Outside right now in the West Point area, as we look out of our camera there, temperature is 68. I'm looking toward that measure of moisture there, that dew point coming in 55. You see that right there, that 55? That's important because there's still a bit of a gap there between the temperature and that measure of moisture. That means the precipitation that in some cases is falling aloft, hitting drier air, and so largely evaporating before it gets to the surface. So we'll show you Mama Justice Doppler radar in a moment for a lot of spots. It doesn't really have much on it at this point here that's actually making to the ground. Macon, another one of those spots, again, cloudy, but not a lot of meaningful moisture, 67 the temperature there in Noxubee County at this time of the evening. And coming in right now at 70 degrees in Greenville. Now, notice the difference there on the temperature from some of those other spots. We'll go back a graphic here, and you show 70 in Greenville there versus 67, as you can see in Macon. So, again, the temperature, not the biggest difference, but maybe that 56-degree dew point there versus coming in about 59. So a little bit higher on the measure of moisture, maybe more of those clouds getting some of that precipitation down closer to the ground. Mama Justice Doppler radar. Again, we show Greenville kind of out of it there, and it's partially because we're just kind of shooting through the layer of rainfall at this point. I think there's still some showers there. It's just, you'll notice if you look pretty closely here, just kind of this big ring right there around the radar site. That's because, again, it's hitting a certain height level, and that's where it's hitting the bottom of the clouds with some of that rainfall that is actually attempting to kind of make it closer to the surface at this point. We show a little bit more moderate rainfall up here closer to Senatobia and Hernando, but even then, we kind of click it over to the closest radar site. There's just not a lot of that truly making it to the ground. On kind of our composite, you can see, again, we're mainly in the greens there, as it's just not a lot of ton of rainfall at this point here. This is all kind of coming off of the spin that you see back out there for locations into Texas. This is kind of an upper level disturbance there. That is lifting our direction. It's what's kind of bringing in the moisture. So ahead of that, we've kind of had these warmer temperatures the last couple of days coming out of the Gulf of Mexico. So that's largely been our story here, just with the warmth that we do have up and in and around here. The moisture from this, though, largely coming with the system. So it's not something that there's already moisture in place. So we just don't have as much to wring out by the time it makes its way here. I think by the time the system after that, though, does, this one, much more active by the weekend and could bring with it a severe storm threat eventually. But in the near term, still some time before that is the case. And we're still just primarily in the lighter variety of green. That's one of those signs that we're just not going to see a ton of meaningful moisture out of this as it moves into and through the Magnolia State. I mean, in some cases, rainfall totals could exceed a quarter inch, maybe half an inch of rainfall. But a lot of us, it's probably less than that. This front does represent slightly cooler air. So the 70s we had today, those are not going back for tomorrow and the next few days. We're just not quite that warm into the rest of this work week. But again, the showers, I think, likely close to that front, and some of those lingering behind it. Meteorologist Maggie McCauley likely tracking some of those roadways tomorrow morning on Mississippi Live Weather this morning. And so 55, your morning temperature tomorrow, 52, as you can see at 9 a.m. That does go down, as you know, just a little bit there as the slightly cooler air on those northerly winds continues to settle in. We're 57 by noon, 62 degrees as we look toward 3 p.m. there. You'll notice the rain chances decreasing through the day. Again, greatest along and near that front. And as it slides through and as the upper level disturbance kind of shifts through as well, the rain chances will largely shift out of our region. And then that'll leave us with clear enough skies that we do get kind of cool again for early morning on your Thursday. We're looking at how cool those temperatures get by Thursday morning. We're also tracking ahead towards some of those rain and storm chances later on into this week and into the weekend. You want to stick around for where we're expecting the most impacts as far as that is concerned, as Mississippi Live Weather continues here from the Room to Room Weather Center right after this.
Save today at Room to Room's President's Day sale. 55% off furniture and mattresses, 20% off accessories,
and 24-month special financing.
The time to act is now.
Room to Room Tupelo, where we know there's no place like your home.
Look at Wanda, ready to rock her big presentation. But first, lunch. Sweet Pepper's Deli. Delicious, celebratory, but is it quick? The Cobb salad. Tender oven roasted chicken, topped with cheese. Prepared, plated, and served in 6 minutes? Is this for real? Well, of course. Well done, Wanda. Sweet Pepper's Deli. Yes, ma'am. Life is sweet.
It's Friday night y estamos activos. Head out early. Drinks flowing from 11.
No sé qué pasó. I didn't even drink that much.
Right now, from the Room to Room Weather Center, here's Mississippi's Chief Meteorologist, Matt Lobhon.
Well, whether you love it or not, we have some rain and storm chances in the forecast going into this upcoming weekend. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lobhon. Thank you so much for joining us here on Mississippi Live Weather. What we've talked about the last couple days here in the Room to Room Weather Center is Valentine's Day. And the storms, I think, we'll have this upcoming weekend. I would say of the 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, probably the best maybe for a date is going to be Friday. Not that everyone else isn't already going to be doing that as well, but probably not great Pickwick weather with some of the rain chances that we're going to have coming up. I think both days there's at least some chances that are likely there. They're mild for this time of the year, and I think that plays well as far as our SEC baseball forecast is concerned. Again, our baseball forecast brought to you by Carl Hogan Toyota there. Friday for some of those games, again, some isolated showers, more likely Saturday. Still working on the timing for Sunday there. Again, our Mississippi State forecast taking on Hofstra there. I think we're going to have our Caleb Edelblut there at the game to kind of give us a look at that home opener there, and we appreciate Caleb for doing that. We appreciate, again, Carl Hogan Toyota for sponsoring our SEC baseball forecast, just like they did our football forecast. And 61 degrees, that first pitch temperature there, probably on Friday at Ole Miss, mid-60s on the way for the weekend. Again, depending on where the rain chances lie on those actual temperatures at game time. So peak temperatures aren't going to be quite as warm as what we have just come off of here. Our meteorologist Maggie McCauley going to be at that game there involving Ole Miss. This is not a live shot out of our camera there in Oxford. Still awaiting that camera coming back after the big ice storm. It's just a reminder that, yes, there are still, even at this time period in advance, folks there in and around Lafayette County that do not have power. Those numbers continue to come down, but it's just a slow go for those folks. And appreciate Phoenix Building Solutions for sponsoring our Oxford camera there, and looking forward to partnering with them going forward here on Mississippi Live Weather. Clarksdale coming in 66 degrees at this instant. There are some of the raindrops on the camera lens. And notice this. This is what we were talking about, that difference there a moment ago. The temperature at 66, that dew point 64. Those numbers have to be close together before that rain really truly does start to get down closer to the ground and actually add up to something. When you compare that to Tupelo, for example, where similar temperature 66, but you don't see any raindrops on the lens there. These clouds are producing rainfall up there if you go high enough up, but our air is still too dry. That dew point at 55. And so that difference there is what's kind of gobbling up some of the moisture. And appreciate Mitchell Cunningham and Bowling for sponsoring our Tupelo Tower Cam there. Mama Justice Doppler radar. We do have, again, those showers from Hernando back to South Haven and Tunica, Marietta, Arkansas. I'm going to switch radar sites here for a moment. Notice how we lose some of those returns back out there into Arkansas. We kind of have that ring of silence here, which just kind of tells us how high up we have some of the more active weather. So let me see if this will let me in here for a moment. I want to check and see how high we have to go. So let's see. So we are on reflectivity, and I have to go up about 8,000 feet in the air. One of the cool things that Mama Justice Doppler radar allow me to tell, if I go 8,000 feet up in the air, that's where the rain starts. And that's part of the reason why it's not falling for a lot of locations at this point and time. Okay, so let's kind of talk through, again, your school day forecast for tomorrow. We're going to need to make sure to prepare the kids with some kind of maybe rain repellent jacket if they're going to be out at the bus stop in the morning. I think we're mainly dry by the final bell of the day, but drop-off temperature 53. We're 55 by lunchtime and lower 60s in the afternoon. So not cold per se, but cooler, a little bit cooler than we were for today. And appreciate IMPC for sponsoring our school day forecast there. So here's Futurecast. Again, the showers continue to spread in, but notice when you just plainly look at the color here, these are all relatively light, all coming in the greens, no yellows, oranges, reds, anything like that associated with these. So fairly widespread lighter variety showers continue because of this front in the area as we go into your Wednesday pre-dawn hours here. Notice we don't really have very many rumbles associated with this. And again, trying to work on the positioning of this front. Either way, the colder air still settling in behind it for the first part of early morning on your Wednesday. So low temperatures, we're about 47 out here, Iuka, Red Bay 48, 46 degrees in Boonville. Again, normal this time of year is 36. Compare that instead to 56 down in Macon and 58 in Aliceville, 56 Kosciuszko. That is the effect of that front, kind of splitting about halfway through the area by the time folks get out and going, by the time you get out and going tomorrow morning. Now, we did just briefly, for about that long, have a couple little bits of orange and red showing up there. That's why it's not impossible to have a rumble around for your morning commute. Our meteorologist, Maggie McCauley, will be tracking any issues related to that. She'll have updates tomorrow morning starting at 6:30 a.m. She's live Monday through Friday, 6:30, 7:30 a.m. here in the Room to Room Weather Center. And so if there are any issues there, she'll be tracking those with our Mississippi Department of Transportation cameras, all of our cameras with North Mississippi Storm Chasers, and of course, Mama Justice Doppler radar. You can check her out for the latest. That's coming up at 6:30, 7, and 7:30 a.m. on your Wednesday morning here in the Room to Room Weather Center. So showers, though, they may remain fairly light. Could we have some rumbles? Yes. I mean, yeah, we showed briefly there. Maybe Eupora back toward Louisville, an occasional rumble, but that's it. And then I think as we head in the afternoon, you can see here outside of maybe there, south of Macon and Aliceville, Louisville, most of us are dry as we pick the kids up from school or they head back on the bus stop. Note the northerly winds, though. Those continue to have some cooler air settling in by early Thursday morning, one of the coldest we have going forward for quite a while, actually. So 62 there in Tupelo, or 63 in Houston, in Amory, 63, 65 the high in Eupora, and 68 in Kosciuszko. We typically should be 57. So Tunica, South Haven, you're going to be pretty much at our 30-year average for your Wednesday. By evening, again, northerly winds are the story. They keep it kind of chilly as you're heading out and back and forth from church on your Wednesday evening, or at least a little bit cool. Chilly might be overstating it, but we will legitimately be chilly by early morning Thursday. You see the clouds, but no precipitation coming in on the backside of this storm system here, as it's just kind of mostly cloudy skies there. A little bit of a northeast wind already starting to show up by early Thursday morning, and almost east by around 6 a.m. Thursday. Why does the wind direction matter? When we have one of these big, cold fronts just has the huge push of air from the north, we'll typically have very strong winds out of the north behind that for a couple of days. That's how the coldest air comes in. Well, this just doesn't have as much to work off of, and that's why that shift in the wind direction is a sign that it's just not overly cold. Low temperatures, we're going about 35 there in New Albany, and Tupelo should be about 36 for normal this time of year. Hey, in Amory and Houston, you'll be right at 36, 41 in Greenwood, 38 degrees Grenada, and 35 Senatobia and Tunica, as well as Holly Springs. I'm going to pop this out of play mode here for a moment. We're going to add back in those wind chill temperatures, and they do slice off a couple of degrees, not an extreme number, because again, it's just a shift in wind there. It's not as breezy by early Thursday morning, but we're down to feeling like we're about 29 there in Red Bay, 31 degrees in Iuka, 30 in Corinth, and coming about 35 there in Bruce, and 36 for wind chill temperature. So again, not an extreme drop, but a little bit cooler for early Thursday morning. And that's as cold as we get for a while. As we go on the wider shot here, you can start to see some of the components coming into play as far as our weekend storm chances are concerned. We do expect we will have some storm, and maybe some strong storm chances as we go into this upcoming weekend. You start to see some of the players. Again, our high pressure center has done an effective job of really shoving moisture down to the Gulf of Mexico. So that's one of the things that, limits our fuel, is if all that moisture is down there in the Gulf, it doesn't make it as far north, obviously. Fingers crossed, knock on wood. That's what we'd like to see there. But we start to see, again, a return to a little bit slightly warmer conditions, I think, by Friday ahead of this. And all these showers to the north, non-factor for us as we're looking back, way back there towards San Diego. This is kind of the upper level disturbance, so really kind of power things. So the reason we're on this shot here, you got two things. You have the moisture starting to come all the way out of the Gulf of Mexico, just beginning to sort of show up there by Thursday evening. But you'll note at that point, it's still down in Louisiana and South Mississippi, still has pretty considerable distance to go. So we're cooler behind our front, but it's not a dramatic drop-off. As you can see here, we're not even technically all the way down to our 30-year average high for this time of year. So again, continuing above our normal 65 degrees in Grenada and Greenwood there at about 66, 65 Belzona, it's 67 Kosciuszko and 65 for Louisville, Starkville, and 66 in Columbus area for your Thursday afternoon. And then by Thursday night, again, kind of watching a little bit of moisture to the north. That's where kind of some of our shower chances come in. It's really this batch of clouds coming out of the Gulf. This is a sign, again, of that returning moisture that will eventually power some more showers and thunderstorms. You'll notice there's nothing out there to concern us for early Friday morning. It'd be late Friday before the next chances start to kind of appear. So looking at Futurecast, still not seeing much at that point, but we are starting to get more active weather coming in again with this main upper level system you see back there toward Texas. Let's kind of walk through this because I think we're still a little too far out to get too nitty gritty on specific details. What's pretty clear on this here going through your Friday is, again, open Gulf of Mexico. That means some winds kind of coming out of the Gulf there and the warmer and more humid air. But notice the wind direction, a lot of these, much kind of more east. Maybe you can kind of pick that out with the little dots we have here over Mississippi. But all these kind of still directing most of the activity back toward the plains. And that's where I think there could, again, be maybe some rumbles on Friday with better chances for all of the above for us as we go into your Saturday. So here's looking at Friday night, and on our strike model here, still more active weather back out for Oklahoma, for Texas, and we're still way ahead of that. So it's part of the reason why there's some showers in the forecast for Mississippi State and Ole Miss's home openers in baseball, but we're not talking about anything much beyond that for Friday. Now, Saturday, things are trickier. You'll see those storms starting to go there back for locations into Texas and Arkansas. We're about noontime here on Saturday. That's as far out as that higher resolution Futurecast goes. Give me a moment. We'll go ahead and add in the lower resolution version of strike. We'll go back and show you that here for a moment. I don't want to overstate how things play out on this here, but let's kind of look at that for a moment. So this is Saturday evening. And again, I don't have the lows and all that kind of stuff on here, but we still can pretty clearly see this circle here is where our main storm system is back there into Texas. So as we look ahead of that, the question is how far north does the unstable fuel for thunderstorms really make it? You know, does it make it all the way up here to where, say, our warm front is, say, up in this zone? If that's the case, then this puts us in a zone where we have a greater chance to possibly see some strong to severe thunderstorms. I would say I'm not highly confident in that at this point. I really think the target zone is going to probably be down here in central Mississippi, South Mississippi. I don't know that we have a lot of time between tomorrow's front coming through, fully clearing down the Gulf, and then starting to get moisture back Friday, Saturday. We'll see. If this slows down at all, then I think that enhances our chances. This particular version of Futurecast here, our strike model, one of the lower resolution versions, has the main portion of this storm system kind of where we would have our more active weather, severe weather out here, Tuscaloosa, Mobile, eastward by early Sunday. Hopefully that's the case. That would bring this through at kind of the best time of day for us to avoid severe weather chances. But I think we're still too far out to really fully have a high confidence level on that. We'll look at jet stream. We'll look at some other components and fuel and those sorts of things coming up during our 6 o'clock broadcast. But I think the takeaway is this. We're going to have rain and thunderstorm chances in this weekend. I think those chances are going to be greatest probably on Saturday at this time, though some do extend into Sunday. That's why we have, again, only 30% on that coverage there on Sunday. But I would say the pre-dawn hours probably going to have quite a few rumbles in it, as our peak time frame to probably see something is going to be after dark Saturday and prior to dawn Sunday. So that overnight storm chance there, be thinking ahead, planning ahead. If this ends up being something where we have some severe thunderstorms, that's a time frame we will be watching it. So we're going to have to monitor that closely. And 6 o'clock, we will look at some components that allow us to kind of judge the health of this storm system in more detail. We alluded to this a minute ago. When does the colder air come back? Those near freezing temperatures, but still above freezing temperatures early Thursday morning is about as cold as we get. There's just not a ton of really cold Arctic air to work off of. You got to go way in the extended forecast before we start to see anything of real significance there. We'll talk about that at 6 o'clock in more detail as well. But I think the big takeaway, I mean, come on, we're much more likely to cross the 70-degree point than we are to go below freezing over the course of the next 7 days. Our next broadcast will be coming up here at 6 p.m. As I mentioned a moment ago, we're going to look at our future cast, and we're going to look at the fuel for these thunderstorms, do a little comparison between some of the projections we can look at this time period on where that fuel's the greatest, how that factors into storm chances, whether or not we're talking about severe thunderstorms, any targeted areas. That's what we're talking about in a lot more detail coming up during our 6 o'clock broadcast as Severe Weather Preparedness Week continues. We'll see you at 6 o'clock here in the Room to Room Weather Center. And again, join the conversation. We appreciate everyone who has done that here. As I'll kind of pop up that chat next to me for a moment. Again, just very thankful for all of you that are such dedicated viewers to us. Appreciate Brenda mentioning and enjoys the explanations and learning and all that kind of stuff. We appreciate y'all for following along with us as we're talking through some things here. So get those questions ready. We'll answer as many of those questions as we can coming up at 6 o'clock as well. So we'll see you here. And again, support those folks that support us here on Mississippi Live Weather, like Northeast. Mentioned Phoenix Building Solutions there, one of our newest sponsors as well, sponsoring our Oxford camera. And if you would like to become a supporter of us on Mississippi Live Weather, you can shoot an email to matt@msliveweather.com or Gabe or honestly, info or sales at msliveweather.com. Probably the easiest ways to do that. You can get that website down below the chat there. You can kind of see that. Okay, we'll see you coming up at 6.
Hate is loud, but love is the majority.
Even though Gabe grew up in Alabama, Mississippi has now become his home and his family. And one thing about Gabe is he keeps his family safe.